Hello, and welcome to another episode of my Stellaris Let's Play. This is Northstar. I hope you folks are well. Bit of a hurry to get some videos out here because took a moment to reflect on my situation, and it is very much grow or die, much like a biological organism. If I don't grow this channel, after I'm in a shorter term place, and then trying to find a year-long apartment, it's a little bit less and then after that runs out, I don't have the money to get another apartment. I'm disabled on COVID, unable to work. The government screwed me out of SSDI. SSI isn't even enough to afford rent in the area. If I had SSDI and SSI, it would be enough to afford rent and live a meager existence. But because they screwed me out based on work credits, based on making it so certain jobs don't contribute work credits for certain types of employers, and that screwed me because some of those employers were mine. Like I worked for a university when I was a student more than half time, for instance. So I didn't get did not get the work credits. They too shy, and it's all or nothing, which is bullshit. They could, give me 90% of the benefit I get at 20 or something. It doesn't start counting until 21. By 31, you need 20 work credits. So basically have to have worked full time half that time period since you turned 21. And since I was in grad school. In fact, not 21, I was still undergrad, and then grad school for 3 years, and then I was stuck in a rural area year until I could get a job around there. I applied widely, but employers thought I would leave the area quickly after I got a job. I was stuck there. Family screwed me. They were right. I did leave the area as soon as I had the money, but I mean, to go where there were jobs in biotech where I thought I would be able to get employment, but it had been over 2 years out of the lab at that point. It was too long. Then retrained as an EMT when I wasn't finding biotech jobs, and worked as an EMT, which at the time was a little over $15 an hour. Not a lot of money, but enough to survive. Then still trying to pursue my dream of becoming a physician, went back to grad school and got disabled on COVID. So basically, I got screwed. And if the employment I did while I was in grad school in that first master's for the university accounted, I would have had the work credits. It was a rule added by Newt Gingrich in the 90s that fucked me. If I don't get this channel, if I don't get this channel to where I can earn money, in a little, like a year and a half, 2 years, I'll be fucked up on the streets and die, because with long COVID, my autonomic nervous system is impaired, and my body won't be able to handle stress as well as a healthy person. So it'll basically mean death. This is what is happening to people with long COVID all around the country. There are millions unable to work due to it, and the government is fucking them. Some of them couldn't get SSDI because of where they were in their careers, such as a 21-year-old who gets disabled while in college. They haven't had any chance to work any work credits, or a graduate student, PhD student gets disabled 23. They're not going to have any work credits. I mean, they're 6-year-olds who got long COVID, so it's not like it's just older or younger people. This is mass murder, essentially, and it's just going on silently with the media writing about it, but writing in a very passive, almost trying to put a positive spin on it, like, oh, the hope and strength of these people. How about the poverty of these people? And they put some money into helping people with this situation survive, instead of, I don't give a shit if you praise how strong and brave, courageous. I give a shit if you make sure that the government prevents people like me from dying on the street due to the housing crisis and rent being insane in this country. Anyways, let's get going. Hopefully I can get this YouTube channel to grow quickly. Subscribe if you haven't. I moved out of basement I was in today. Let's get this a little louder for you guys and me, honestly. Got an air conditioner that comes on sometimes, I turn it way down, but it's hot as balls otherwise. So by down, I mean turn the temperature set point up to 74 degrees, but shouldn't talk about temperature. It'll help weird internet fascists try and dox me, which I don't need. Let's see. Anchor. I don't like seeing construction queues idle this early. I like to always be building something. Reactor district. I should probably just do that soon. Put some of the squires into technician jobs. It's gonna have to wait though. I have to upgrade the fleet. Well, I don't have to. That one will be all Buckler class corvettes and be used to hunt the red profits. This fleet, Bracer class corvettes, which have 1 laser, 1 armor. The armor because it's less alloys for giving that survivability. It's more expensive in the long run, but I'm just trying to get a fleet ready to deal with the voidworms. Also, voidworms have missiles, which ignore shields but don't ignore armor. So, and things, but nothing you can do about that except add to overall hit points. They chew through armor real well. Triple damage to armor, so yeah. The missiles don't have any bonus damage, and lasers because they have bonus against hull, which is what voidworms use. So they actually have higher DPS than kinetics, especially if some of the shots would miss due to not having enough tracking. Even without that being a factor, the bonus damage hull makes us slightly better than kinetics. Not to mention, I'll probably have upgradable. I'll get higher tier lasers before higher tier kinetics, because engineering there's more competition for other techs. So lasers are cheaper to upgrade in the long run. Eventually I'll become blue lasers and so forth. Anyways. Synth just did these 3 defense platforms, which gave me an empire focus, but also, once I have the alloys, which I don't, I can upgrade these, I believe. It says no upgrades available. I think that's just a lack of alloys. I hope that is. Once I have enough, hopefully it'll let me upgrade them. Quote, why am I saying quote? It'll let me upgrade them. That's the hope. Hydroponics farms, because I'm going to be automating the farms here with the automation building I unlocked recently. It's a minor improvement. Resources are tight, especially need more consumer goods and alloys, which means I need to increase base resource productivity so I can afford to pull workers. And by productivity, I don't mean production absolute, I mean production per worker, which the automation buildings will help, so I can free up some labor to work in factories instead of in mines and farms. The food is mostly, I've been producing this a little bit to do another cloning vat, but mostly to trade it for minerals or energy. Energy will be used for automation buildings. I may go into a small deficit soon. The minerals are being used for all kinds of upgrades. Let's see. I don't remember having so many minerals, but let's see. Automation buildings are 540, so I need 1080. Yeah, that's right. So delaying, I will do in the xenobiology lab, but I need automation buildings first. Alright. Here we go. Sorry, it took a sec to figure out where I was. Almost 10 minutes in. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm disabled with long COVID. I can't focus very well. It's been a tiring day moving up from the basement. Cleaning stuff off that had already in like a mere 3 days grown some mold because there's really bad mold problems there. Then a different guy upstairs moved out, and so I moved in his spot. He actually used to be in the basement himself, and he was like, yeah, I don't know how you can do the basement. It's terrible. Mold's a huge issue there. He was right about that. But anyways, he's a very nice guy. I got his phone number. Still trying to be friends with him, but friends won't save me from dying in the streets. Unless they're really close friends they crash with, which I don't have any that close, and unlikely. Only this channel growing can. If you really want to help, but recommend the channel to other people. I need more viewers and need more subscribers. Got an actual desk in my room now, so I can produce more, because before I couldn't upload stuff without being able to watch my laptop. So many people coming through where I had the desk that eventually someone would have just stolen the computer. Heck, even a delivery guy, even the delivery people went there, it's like someone would have stolen eventually. Now I can leave it uploading while I sleep. As long as the door's locked, it's completely safe. I have the monitor power off, so it's not like it's going to keep me up. And yeah, kind of nocturnal because I do a multiplayer stream of Age of Wonders 3 with a guy in Midwestern time zone who is works like third shifts. So
System survey concluded.
One of my best viewed streams, so I really can't afford to not do that. So I have to be nocturnal, and my body seems to want to do it anyways. It doesn't always been night owl, but since long COVID, that turned into being truly nocturnal for whatever reason. Like up at 4 p.m., sleep like 7 a.m. That's pretty much nocturnal. Early to bed, early rise. I wish that were possible, but not possible with the need to be awake nights to stream. There's no way I could just swing it with my long COVID if I'm not. It's not like I can just have more coffee and stay up later one day. Some people could do that, but not. You know, I could have done that actually before I got sick, but not with long COVID. My energy just gives out too easily. Alright, just looking to see which of these is first. Looks like it's the Goolantha herd in 22-23. Huh? Oh no, are they expanding again? Oh no, thankfully not. Eventually the mineral extraction core will expand again. Do that periodically. Yeah, they're just gonna be collecting the specimens from these two worlds, the Cenarian and Orinthi. With that, I'll finish all the specimen procurement. Orinthi procurement. The other ones I've done, I just haven't done the toasts. Should be 3 here. Goolantha, Zilkor, and Tassagoid, right? And then it's heat from below near stats. But yeah, governments love to say, oh, you just couldn't cut it or something. But this rugged individualist neoliberalism stuff is just an excuse to let people die or make them so desperate for employment that, like, they'll work on their counter for terrible wages. But that doesn't work with disabled people, obviously, who can't, often are physically unable to do stuff. The point is to keep wages low, because competition for jobs, so that the billionaires become wealthier. It's capitalism. And capitalism is, people say, though, the death toll of communism is under 1 million. Well, first of all, that's exaggerated bullshit, including dead Nazis who invaded the Soviet Union in the number. And second, the death toll of capitalism is over 1 billion. Through people dying deaths of poverty that were easily preventable, but just where socialist countries provided food, housing, and healthcare to everyone, and there was enough to go around. I mean, there were famines, but then everyone was starving. But as long as there was enough that everyone wasn't starving, I mean, food was actually free. But it was subsidized to the point where, except in famine conditions, everyone could afford food. Famine conditions, the price would still, even the government's paying 90% of it. And actually, those policies were implemented in the Soviet Union after the 1930s famine, so that people never starve again, so that wasn't subsidized originally. In fact, Lennon, he was kind of a little bit of a shit sometimes. He who does not work will starve. He literally said that. He was not particularly sympathetic to disabled people. Not a Marxist-Leninist. I am a democratic socialist. Shit like that. Lenin's terrible takes on farmers, disabled people, and on the need for opposition parties are very much why. He was right about a lot of other things, but he was very, very wrong in those three. I mean, he was thinking, I think, more about layabouts who were healthy enough to work but didn't. But the early Soviet Union had very little support for, and it wasn't until after the famines that they subsidized food even. But they provided free housing and healthcare to everyone. So, you could get better housing by paying extra, but everyone was given a roof over their head. No one was ever homeless. As soon as the Soviet Union collapsed, of course, homelessness skyrocketed and actually started to, as the system was collapsing in the late 80s, you started to see for the first time ever homelessness. Because rampant corruption and everything falling apart, but that was due to Gorbachev's reforms. Now, we're talking like 87 at that point. And the Berlin Wall fell, and 2 years later, the whole system was falling apart, and then people misrepresent the end. The way things were at the very end is how they always were, which is just utterly dishonest. You don't point to a system as it's collapsing. It's like pointing to Rome as it was burning in the end, the Roman Empire, and saying that's what the Roman Empire was always like. No. It's dishonest bullshit. Alright. The food lines and stuff, all that in this late Soviet Union, that was literally as the system was collapsing. It's because Gorbachev's reforms were disastrous and destroyed any faith that the system would survive. Partially, plaque on the wall reads, it automates automation building. Partially destroyed that faith by, the guy stuck in charge of media reform was secretly trying to bring down the system from within. And, I don't know if this, I think this only increases workers by 25% or something, or a third. So if you fill all the labor, 25% of it comes from automation. So let's see what it does. So I'll actually have to assign more farmers to get the full use of the automation building. That's fine. I'm probably going to place a farming district here. I should replace, instead of building a brand new thing, because no reason to increase my district number beyond what I can actually work. 75 population a month? What? That doesn't make sense. Shouldn't be that much. Something weird is happening in this world. Well, when there's civilians, when they have farms. Weird. Okay. And check stuff there. Surface core deposit is so there'll be more jobs for automation. I'll automate the mines in Hessek. Place one of the farming districts with a generator district. So need more energy with help automation. End up automating 4 districts. That's 32 more upkeep. Minus 20% of it I don't pay. But then there's also this. So yeah, I'll be running a small deficit, like 4 energy a month, without more technicians. Which actually there's already room for a few more. Freaking get lost mosquito or gnat or whatever. I don't know. Small blood-sucking insect that bites. least when I was in the basement, I didn't have to deal with these things flying in through a window that had an air conditioner that doesn't seal perfectly. Not luck I'm gonna get the landlord to seal that air conditioning. Still, it's much better not having to deal with mold problems. Given the housing prices, this is reasonable what I've got now, although housing prices are way too high. So it's too much, but only in the sense that all apartments are currently too much for what you're getting. To work too many hours to afford rent, because no community is allowing multi-story apartment buildings to be built, and single-family housing zoning cannot provide enough housing for the American population. There aren't enough areas that are zoned higher density. And communities are, I don't want apartments in my backyard. Oh, it'll bring in criminals and poor people. First of all, criminals are still human beings, and they're not actually criminals in the sense of they just did a crime. They're probably in prison. These are people who have served their time, so fuck you. And to those people. And second, poor people need housing too. And it's just because under capitalism, your house is like your retirement investment. That does not hold under socialism, because the government built a lot of free housing. So it's not a good investment. You're not allowed to have investments in the normal sense. Housing can't be used that way, and you can't have stocks or bonds, and you get retirement provided by the government. So under capitalism, people treat their housing as their retirement, like the homes they own. So they don't want anything that might devalue their home. So they'll leave people dying homeless rather than see their price of their house come down. That is evil. And a system that creates that incentive structure so that people do that is evil. You can't just blame on the people making a decision, because without that watching for the value of their house, they will likely die themselves due to ending up homeless in their retirement, not having enough money, or in a terrible nursing home that treats them like shit and then die. It's a brutal, evil system. Capitalism has caused more human suffering than most people know. They just blind to it, the way things have always been, they think. And then they get propagandized by alternatives, so they think they're terrible. Trust me, I was brainwashed like that once myself into thinking anything alternative to capitalism was terrible. It's how the ruling class always ensures the education system teaches that nonsense, and many people are too inflexible to ever admit that they were wrong. They come to believe what they were taught, not realizing they're just blindly licking the boot of people in power. And then they're too arrogant and narcissistic and such to ever admit that they might have been wrong about something. Memory, 11%. Doesn't this go up to... Oh, it's max 25, and the homeworld starts with max. Which means it's 135% habitability. Caps 100 unless you do the... If you do mutation ascension, you can get up to 150% habitability with tradition that gives bonuses up to that. You'd still need more habitability, like from this actually ran to 145 to get to 150. It adds to job efficiency and reduces housing usage and amenities usage, I believe. I have to double check the bonuses. Definitely be going mutation for my ascension. It's arguably the strongest, the tallest build. People say purity is. No, purity absolutely is not the tallest build. I don't know what idiots say that. You can have much more effective pops in a mutation, especially if you actually add negative traits in order to take more positive ones. Ones that won't hurt a given roll. Just, those are the same people who like to purge aliens because they want a simple population chart, supposedly, but it's really racism in disguise. It's definitely like people who have racist beliefs, and so they fall into the game by purging alien species as a proxy for, I don't know, some of them. I mean, or even sometimes it's more legit in the sense that people just don't like the aliens, the idea of it, but that's comes out of the same part of the brain, part that can't deal with diversity. It's scared by people who are different than them, and there's nothing more different than an alien. Plaque on the wall reads, it automates. And yeah, there can be like murderous finite purifiers, but if you conquer a finite purifier, their pops won't try and kill you. It's just the government, it's the rulers who are doing that. It's not like you can easily, this hive mind might try and eat my pops, but I can conquer them, de-hive them, and their pops will live in peace and harmony with mine. Of course, I need, I think the mutation tradition is the one that allows you to de-assimilate hive pops, if I'm not mistaken. Cloning and purity don't allow that. Used to be genetic ascension would allow that, but there is no such thing as genetic ascension now. Oh, this is here. The James Cook is in position. Alright. The scientist could use a level up. Anja Bergmeister. Which literally means like mayor in German. Berg being like a city. So Bergmeister would be a city master, i.e. a mayor. It's kind of like, you know, the name Smith. Names that refer to professions in some way. I could be wrong. I do speak some German. I'm not like speaking blind here. I think saying this is sort of reasonable. Boom. Like those specimens. Sure, somebody will correct me. I know some German people may want to correct me about that if I'm wrong. Please do. I always want to learn. And I don't mind people challenging me. I do mind is like, get internet fascists. Oh, you're horrible because you're a socialist and socialism is evil. And then you ask them, why do you think it's evil? And they can't put a coherent thought together because they don't really know because they're just brainwashed. Because they were taught that way, and nonsense they're taught in school is a bunch of lies, and they didn't even really pay enough attention. They just got the emotional gist of it. And now they won't admit that they maybe were wrong. You know, and like a lot of people, like their parents would sit around drinking beers and talking how horrible socialists were, and it gets to be part of the culture. Those commies, and communists literally refers to Marxist-Leninists, which is only one step of that socialism. One that believes in a single party state, essentially, which I've said is a terrible idea. You need opposition parties, or else you'll get all sorts of corruption. I mean, Trotskyites could be shit, but they weren't wrong that there was some deep-seated corruption in the Soviet Union, though it was less than like in the United States, so, you know, lesser of two evils. Cold War was very much a lesser of two evils situation. Unfortunately, the greater evil is the one that won it, which is the US. Capitalism. It's not freedom at all. It's always been oligarchy in disguise. It's only become incredibly obvious now, like Doge and that nonsense. I mean, maybe not always. The US might have been a legit republic in like its first 50 years. But it was ceasing to be one by like the 1840s. So it's been an oligarchy for a very long time. A very long time. It's just gotten more and more obvious, with like the Gilded Age and the current period being the two most obvious time periods. There have been reformers who tried to fix or change it, from JFK, who was, you know, murdered, to FDR, who his legacy was undermined by his chosen successor, Henry Agard Wallace, not being cheated out of in a rigged Democrat Party convention, the vice presidency, then the vice president from 40 to 44, and Truman, who was a conservative piece of shit, who went about slowly dismantling FDR's policies while pretending to support them, and was probably a Klansman. Truman? Was that Truman? No, that was Wilson. Shit. No, Truman was also accused of having Klan connections. It was just really obvious with Wilson. That's right. Like, Wilson was definitely a Klansman. Truman might have been. He was racist. He was conservative. He pretended to side with the labor unions, but he was secretly working against them. Like, which is why he actually vetoed the Taft-Hartley Act. What was it? That basically tied the hands of organized labor and set the process for trade unions to lose membership from the end of World War II to the modern era. He vetoed it, but he was secretly in support of it, even though he vetoed it. That's the kind of shit that, like, Truman did. He was a monster. And of course, he nuked Japan when it wasn't necessary to nuke a city. He could have just nuked a naval base or dropped nukes off the coast if you really wanted to intimidate the Japanese, and they were going to surrender even without nukes. You'd be like, oh, my grandfather died. If not for that, probably not, actually. Not if politicians and generals weren't intentionally throwing lives away in a race to conquer Japan before the Soviets would get more of Korea. Which could have happened, but the US is perfectly capable of making heavy use of like shore bombardment and strategic bombing. Which, don't get me wrong, was horrid. The firebombing of Tokyo killed more people than atomic bombs, if I'm not mistaken. But you could argue that the atomic bombs saved lives in the sense that the firebombings were worse. But you can't argue that it saved lives of soldiers. It absolutely didn't, since firebombing was quite effective in breaking the will of Japan, and both were war crimes. Neither should have been done. But honestly, Japan was going to surrender just because of the naval blockading, because they were starved of oil. They knew they couldn't win. No need for even heavy strategic bombing. Just would have taken longer, and again, the US was in a race because Soviet troops had liberated Manchuria from the Japanese, which had been stolen by Japan from China before World War II. They'd stolen Korea. They conquered the entire Korean peninsula and then grabbed Manchuria. So Soviet troops had marched in Manchuria, liberating it from Japanese occupation, and returning it to the Chinese, and then marched into Korea, and they were liberating North Korea, and the US wanted to make Japan surrender before they liberated the entire peninsula, because they wanted to set up a puppet government in Korea, which is what happened in South Korea and led to the Korean War. That US-funded, US-backed, US-perpetrated genocide. The leading English language expert in the Korean War holds fast that it was a genocide. The bombing campaign killed millions of North Korean civilians. Millions. I think it was like 2 million civilians plus a huge number of soldiers or something. Leveled every single city in North Korea. And it was not unprovoked aggression. The United States actually was the aggressor in that war, both by refusing to allow peninsula-wide elections and maintaining a puppet government in South Korea, and the South Korean puppet government actually carrying out aggressive actions. They fired the first shot at South Korea in these border raids they were conducting into the north. So, that was the costliest battle of the war, is the South Korean border raids. They're crossing the border in North Korea and blowing shit up and shooting people. And so the North Koreans used that as a reason to declare war. And then the US conveniently made sure that that news never got back to the US population, the same way the Gulf Tonkin incident was a bunch of lies told to bring the American public into support of the Vietnam War. That was revealed eventually with a set of leaks. That the whole thing was a bunch of lies, and that the there was nothing that happened on August 4th in the Gulf of Tonkin. August 2nd, that the United States had fired the first shot, and that the North Vietnamese torpedo boats had retaliated by trying to hit the U.S. destroyers, which they missed. The destroyers suffered no casualties, and then an aircraft carrier air support group came and heavily damaged the North Vietnamese ships, causing casualties. So no Americans died. North Vietnamese did die, and it was because America fired the first shot at the ship, and the ship retaliated. And then it was lied to, and the American public was told that North Vietnam had fired first, which was a lie. When you shoot a ship, it's going to shoot back at you. You can't blame. And it was in international waters. The U.S. had no right to shoot the ship, and it was actively supporting shore bombardment by South Vietnamese ships. So these ships were not neutral. They were conducting aggressive actions, providing like shore spotting. So like reconnaissance stuff. They were scouting out ahead of the South Vietnamese fleet that was conducting shore bombardment, and they were in international waters. And then they fired at North Vietnamese ships that got close, and then North Vietnamese ships retaliated. I think they fired torpedoes that missed or something, and then, as I said, a carrier group attacked the North Vietnamese boats, actually killing people. Yeah, that's the Gulf of Tonkin incident. And then the U.S. made up an entirely fictitious set of skirmishes on the 4th. On August 4th, in that year, U.S. destroyers fired at empty water, essentially. They thought they saw ships on sonar, but there were no ships there. Aerial reconnaissance confirmed they were shooting at ghosts. There was nothing there. And nothing was fired at them. And then that was made up as, they tried to attack us on the 4th. That never happened. There were not even North Vietnamese ships in the area. Yeah. Oh, I can get started in the xenobiology lab now. Couldn't do it last month. Nothing lost by doing it now instead of like on the 1st. 8 days late, doesn't matter here. So I made a temporarily run more biologists right before I do some of these toasts, get more stored research data, and then I don't have to keep running the biologists if I want to put them back into physics. I'd probably rather biology and physics, especially with the buffs this gives to biology. But I'm also pull artisans and put them back after. Have them temporarily pull some artisans to help handle lab specimens, basically, for like a week. Temp jobs in the research lab. Categorize, I guess, Goolantha herds or whatever in Zilkor swarms. Goolanthas, they won't be done on time. This will be done just in time for the Zilkor swarm. Like literally 4 days before it, or something, 3. Before I have to process. But, you know, I consider it, regardless of the labor or not, that they're building storage facilities so they can store specimens. You don't necessarily need much labor to keep like a deep freeze cold. Communication obfuscation. Trust me on that, I've worked in research laboratories in biology. We would have deep freeze rooms of cryogenically frozen samples that no one had touched in years. The language, and then sometimes we pull them when we need them for some experiment. The language of the mega aliens contains millions of seemingly redundant sounds, apparently dialectic hangovers from their previous precursor civilizations. When translated, these apparently superfluous faux words seem to serve no purpose other than to add linguistic flavor, or at most have minor contextual implications. Thankfully, our linguists have narrowed down the obsolete aspects of their language and are now compiling an abridged lexicon which should prove very useful for efficient communications with the Megalians. Understood. Yeah, I'm gonna get a choice from this, I'm pretty sure, whether to actually learn the supposedly superfluous elements of the language. They're not superfluous. They're used to show like sophistication and intelligence basically in the language. So you get a diplomatic relations debuff if you do the simplified, but you establish communication sooner. If you do the other, they might translate your language first. You risk that, but you get both of them. The penalty or the buff to diplomatic relations will slowly expire either way. But yeah, nothing is really superfluous in language, very rarely. Some things are obscure or just used to show like sophistication, intelligence. That's entirely common. Oh, this is already in their borders of the ALF aliens, so can't find anomalies here. Just gain some experience if I want. I'll go southwest then. Should have paid more attention to the science ship, but I was too busy talking about linguistics. Makes a little bit of sense that society research is biology, sociology, and linguistics. A lot of biologists do get some education in some of these other fields. It's not necessary to do biology research, but a lot of biologists are people who were thinking about a career in medicine, and you're expected to learn. There's not a specific curriculum. Certain courses you have to take for med schools, like biochemistry, a certain amount of biochemistry and organic chemistry, but you're expected to mix in some sociology, psychology, history, those kind of courses. It's up to you which specific courses you want to take. So it's very common for a lot of biologists to have some background in those things, which you won't find among physicists or engineers to nearly the same degree. So I'm less bothered in some by a biology lab giving you statecraft, for instance. There is some synergy, and while they're still not the same thing, it's the most sensible related field other than having an entirely new field of research, which they probably should have done. Should have been like sociology versus biology as separate things, but if they're going to combine them to just 3 categories, this was the most sensible way to do it, for the devs to do it. Making good progress on precursor activity. I shall find the first sleek homeworld eventually. End up with 4 clues. You can get find one on one of your worlds after a certain mean time to happen, and you can be gifted a clue from another empire that you have good relations with. So if I befriend the ALF aliens, for instance. So I may have to wait a while, but I should eventually find the first league. Should be cool. I'll get first league filing offices, which ain't bad. They're also not as good as arguably because they limit it to 1 per planet, I think. Or no, 1 per empire, I think. It's a very, very good bureaucracy uni building, but you can only build 1. Because it was by far the best building made precursor buildings, but they should have made it 1. They shouldn't have limited it to 1. That was too much. It makes the first league actually the weakest in terms of unique buildings of all the precursors now. Because all the other ones you can still spam their buildings, even though they're not as good as the first league filing office. You can have so many of them, you get more total benefit by far. Sorry, I know I'm a little loopy and talking too much. Even after I had a snack, lay down for a while, I'm still tired from moving upstairs today. I don't have that much energy with long COVID, and I get loopy. It starts sounding like I've been drinking or something in terms of being really verbose and shit. That's because of my long COVID. It didn't used to happen before. I mean, not to this degree anyways. A little bit maybe. I think it exasperated some tendencies I already had to be verbose, but at least it made sense when I talked in the past. It's one of the reasons I can't do normal work, because I'll get like this after like 3 hours of work. No employer wants it'd be an embarrassment. So I have to do jobs I can do for like 3 hours, maybe an hour of like light duty or some back office thing where no one will notice I'm loopy. But it's not public facing. Not many employers want someone who's somewhat impaired for 3 hours, has to do an hour of very minimal work, and can't do more in 4 hours period. That's very, unless the government pressures them to do with like some disability employment programs, that you have to be SSI approved, which I applied. They rejected my application based on a missing form. I appealed and filed the missing form, and now I'm just waiting for them to tell me if there's another missing form or some bullshit, or rejected anyways, trying to claim I'm not. I don't have the evidence I'm disabled or some bullshit, because I don't trust the government to do the right thing anymore. Not with Trump in power. I'm not sure before then, but of course the local Social Security officer I am now is very helpful, unlike the where I lived before. But I don't know if they send it to another facility or contract out to industry. They might not be the ones to decide these things. There could be other reasons they just decide to be unhelpful. Like personal factors, there could be discrimination that happens. I'm not going to talk about that. I do not reveal more personal information than I need to. Mistakes I've made, but also in dealing with abusive family members, but also like inherent characteristics we discriminate against for. For those who've studied sociology, you know what I mean? The difference between inherent characteristics versus like earned ones. I think that was the term. Inherent is anything from the color of your skin to, I'm not going to talk more. Anyways. So the office might have a default being helpful, but they could still be shitty to some people, whereas the other office is just shitty to everyone. So, slight improvement. This is very rare. Most Social Security offices are not helpful. So I'm lucky this one is an area where they're actually helpful to most people. Get a lot of retirees that live here as a result, because a lot of people are in Social Security, and having an office that doesn't shit on you and make everything harder than it needs to be is nice for them. Again, I need to stop talking about where I am. Maybe I'm just dropping some misinformation to confuse fascists. I've received death threats from fascists online before. On Reddit. Not here on YouTube, thankfully. But it's a matter of time until one of them realizes I have YouTube and decides to track me down here. Alright. Here's 22, 23. The Goolantha herd will have to auto-analyze when February rolls around. I mean, you won't see the prompt then, but the most optimal thing is just to let that expire. Because my research output goes up every month as I gain more squires at Anchor. It goes up just a little. Squires are it's doing more. Well, Enforcers probably consume enough minis that they actually decrease output when the minis are so short and when stability is this low. Stability is a low, 50%. I'm pretty sure Squire raises stability, but well, I know they do, but I'm pretty sure Enforcer lowers it, because even though they directly increase stability, they indirectly decrease it by more. So they're just there for dealing with the crime. Now, if the planet was more stable, the Enforcers would actually raise stability. The minis situation wasn't so far in the negative. I think it would have to be if happiness was over 50% and stability was over 50%. Even if the minis were still negative, the Enforcers would raise stability. Right, I could... Priests actually do produce some society research, so I could run more priests for a little bit. Wait, why am I not? Priests not only run society research, they provide the exact same amenities as it's 2 amenities per pop. Either way. Uses more consumer goods though. That's probably why I didn't run more priests. Be happier. Squires are unhappy because their workers understaffed by economy. Alright. Let's increase the number of priests. Definitely soak up all the unemployed pops. Priests. I didn't realize I had those. Cool. Still have some squires. Should probably run engineers instead of squires though. Whoa. Pulling from artisans? No, thank you. Alright. Boom. 8 engineers, 21 squires, etc. I'm going to do here, because I want you guys to see the description of the Goolanthas saved. So I'm going to click this. Goolantha are large, flat herbivores that have evolved internal gas pockets, enabling them to hover a few centimeters above the ground. They move about in herds consisting of a few dozen animals. Grazing on the moss and lichen that can be found on the windswept plains of Striber 3A. They are ruthlessly hunted by the moon's apex predators, and our biologists in the James Cook estimate that only a few hundred Goolantha herds remain. One of these, consisting of 9 animals, has been successfully collected and will be brought back to Hessic Prime. I'll reload that. Now, it's not just that I'll have more squires as pops grow each month. It seems very min-maxing. Some people may even think this is illegitimate, though I could have just delayed researching them until later. I just wanted to mentally not have to worry about going and collecting them later. It's not just that. It's I assign more pops to produce society research, and I'm gonna just keep them doing that. It's not like I'm just swapping in the priests. That's a permanent thing. So I'm gonna get the benefit of it. But it doesn't. It takes a few days to recalculate. So even if I was gonna do it this month, I would want to wait until it recalculated the society output, or wait till next month for it to recalculate that. But yeah, so Goolantha herd. That'll just time out. Just checking if there's anything. And next up are the aerostat colonies, which I think is engineering. I'm gonna keep up as I grow more engineers. I'm gonna keep reassigning squires to engineering. Just don't want it. If I increase engineering further, it'll stupidly pull from the artisans instead of the squires. Has to do with like what the slider actually do is change the weighting of a job, it appears. So for pop, I don't know, it's happy enough being a squire. It's weird. I don't know. A lot of things I don't know. Cool. Now, I don't think there was a specimen from the Goolanthas, were there? Right? We have completed vitality boosters. Or the buy fails. Science intervenes. Alright. Space combat would be marginally... Okay, not really useful. Actually, I didn't think about it. So the upgrade fleets are being developed in 2 different directions. Now where do we need starbase capacity? We're in Naval Logistics Office. We have room for a Fleet Academy. I guess I'll find out if I can do G-Clinics in parallel. These are all, every one of them is useless tech. Oh. You know what? Space Combat's cheapest. They're all useless. You usually want to do the cheapest tech so you can reroll. Doctrine Space Combat. Our Navy is our best means of project power. See, it will prioritize them above most needs, unless... No, this is a guaranteed research option later. And I might even get some progress for free. Heck with it. Gene Clinics. Or a star expansion, that'll be useful someday. Fleet supremacy for a while to get experienced ships, though. Well, you need to... Oh, frick it. I need this now. Guaranteed stuff aside. Fleet support comes first, I'll see. Earlier. Get, like, progress on fleet support for free. Wait, hold on a sec. Shouldn't... Ah! I wasn't scrolling down. Here's some useful stuff. Epigenetic triggers, frequency tuning, xenolinguistics, or planetary unification. Time I do this, I'll probably... think back in my mind that, oh, yeah. This might not roll before I do xenolinguistics. Actually, I'll get some progress on it from completing first contact. Cost of stuff goes up, so the progress I already have in research becomes less valuable. I'm essentially losing a little bit of research every, like, month, year. I don't run one of these guaranteed options. That already is progress. But I'll get free progress in that and this when I do my next Genesis arc. Wait a second. The Energy Siphon gives extra shield hit points. Restores 10 shields to attacking ship. Oh! They must have buffed this at some point. Now it's actually pretty good. Or it was always good and I didn't know. Alright, Energy Siphons can be useful for my fleet, as well as adapting the Talenky method of siphoning energy from gaseous matter is possible to construct weapons, draining energy from many ships and into my shields. And it'll be one less biology thing I can roll. I think no. It's only when you add research or specializations, because you increase the weight of biology by having a biologist in charge of sci research. That's an old thing. So yeah, I'm not increasing the weight of other biology texts by doing this anymore. It's never increasing the weight, it's not increasing the chance by removing other high weight things. That's an old habit. It used to be the case in this game. It was on the edge of my mind. It's like, was that? Yeah, that used to be the case. It's no longer the case. Alright, I do want to check. I'm 99% sure. The Goolantha didn't give a specimen. I just want to see that prompt again. So, huh. Jeez, I'm almost an hour. Okay, I know this has got to be a boring video, guys. I'm sorry. I'm tired. I'm less entertaining than usual. Long COVID, I'm often tired. It just fucking sucks, man. The rate I'm going, like a year and a half, 2 years on to almost on the street, because even though I should probably end up getting SSI once my savings are low enough, it won't be enough to pay rent. Unless go to some really rural area, I might be able to pay rent for that price for what they give you. It's not enough where I am in a suburban area, but there are rural places where you can pay rent off that. I guess I could live in the middle of nowhere. It's better than being homeless. It's honestly, rural areas are cool. It's just there's no jobs in them. But if I can't work anyways, why not go where the cost of living is way lower? Oh, did this bug out? Oh, guys, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, I came to a bit of epiphany, and then my game froze. Alright, well, sucks, but I did save before, so this is not the worst thing. Alright, well, viewers, I wish you all the best. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves, and may you always find a guiding star lead you home. Until next time, this is Northstar Do, and best of luck to you all.